Welcome to Jocks vs. Geniuses. I'm your host, Tim James. On today's show, we have once again Super Bowl champion Reuben Droughns and World Series of Poker main event champion Joe Cada. Welcome back to the show, boys.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for having me.
Well, so you called it last week, Rube. The Denver Broncos, 3 keys to winning, the tight ends, the defensive play, rushing the quarterback, and whoever gets their run game off. All 3 things were the absolute keys to victory. How did your fantasy lineup do?
Well, just my fantasy lineup, it did all right. It didn't do it as great with the running game and stuff like that. So,
99 yards, 99 total team yards.
Yeah. I mean, you weren't going to get no rushing in this game, And if I would have chose Brown as a receiver, Brown as a receiver, I actually would have been really good because everybody else balled out. Even Gronk, because you knew Gronk was going to get his balls and his catches and his stuff like that. But, it's just the maintaining Tom Brady was the key, and I think the Denver Broncos did that very well.
So you called the sleeper. Joe, you also had the tight end as a sleeper on your roster. What made you pick him?
I just like the matchup, and I like they were just going to go to reliable tight end every time. And I just felt like Owen Daniels was a good, cheap bargain play for how cheap he was compared to the rest of the tight ends in the play.
Yeah, Reuben, you called this also. He had 2 touchdowns in this game. Actually, in the first quarter, he had 2 touchdowns. He had 3 touchdowns all season.
Yeah.
What made you guys? How did you guys know that that's where the ball was going? Because both of you did.
Well, I mean, for me, I knew that they were gonna key on Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders, who have been the prime, on Peyton Manning's prime targets this whole season, when he has been in there. But with Kubiak's offense, his style of offense, the tight end is really the feature. Which is really the featured wide receiver who controls the whole passing game. So I knew at some point in time that they were going to focus on that and try to exploit it.
Do you think that Owen Daniels is going to be a threat this week, Joe, or next week? Sorry.
I mean, he's going to be a threat, but not as much of a threat, I think, against Carolina. I mean, that's going to be a tough game. I mean, Denver had a huge advantage in the Patriots game just because they had home field, and they had Brady's snap count. He just went on a rhythm. He snapped that rhythm, and they just had all the timings down, and they got to Brady so often. So I just think it's going to be a different game.
Peyton Manning, in my opinion, is a much different quarterback with and without the glove on. Obviously, it's not going to be that cold in San Francisco this weekend, so he's not going to play with the glove. How much of a difference do you think that's going to make?
I think it'd give him a little bit more zip on the ball, but it's not going to come to Peyton Manning throwing deep touchdowns or throwing the ball 45 times a game. It's going to be the Broncos have to be consistently running the football. They're going even though they get 2-yard loss, 3-yard loss, 4-yard loss. You got to be consistent with running the football against this team. That's the only way it's going to be a nut and grind type of game. So
let me understand you correctly. You're suggesting that even if they lose yardage, they should continue to run?
You have to continue to run the ball, because if you don't, they're going to put the pressure on and not be afraid of. They're not right now going to be afraid of Peyton Manning. These guys blitz probably 60% of the time, and they're getting to the quarterback and getting turnovers in the first half of the game. I mean, it is amazing the type of turnovers that they had in these playoffs.
Oh, I've never seen anything like it. But I think
they're going up by 20, 30 points.
Carolina Panthers D had to be the play. If you don't have their defense last week, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
It was 6 turnovers.
Well, I mean, it's so funny we're saying that the Carolina's D was the play, but just think about this for a second. Tom Brady in the entire season was never hit more than 12 times in a game. The Broncos hit him 24 times in this game, in the last game. I'm sorry, the Broncos hit him. They sacked him 4 times, and they still weren't the defense. That's pretty insane.
I'm gonna tell you what. The Broncos match up way better with Carolina Panthers than they do with Arizona Cardinals. Arizona Cardinals have too many threats that can go deep, that can go around you, and then you have a quarterback that can put the ball right on the money with the best deep ball in the game. Now, when they're playing against the Carolina Panthers, listen, you put Talib on what's the Ginn, you put Talib on Ted Ginn, you put Chris Harris on whoever else is out there. The Broncos defense matches up way better with the Carolina Panthers than they would have with the Arizona Cardinals.
What do you think what do you think the difference is going to be? I guess the real question is that they're not playing the Cardinals, so they are playing the Panthers. Last week they played the Patriots. Obviously, they're completely different teams, completely different offenses. What kind of adjustments do you think that the Broncos defense is going to need to make?
I mean, dealing with the running quarterback as well, like, I think it's so much more difficult to game plan for Cam Newton than Carson Palmer. I mean, I just think there's the schemes that Carolina has compared to Arizona. I disagree. I think Denver would much rather have Arizona than Carolina in the Super Bowl.
Why so?
Just because I think it's tougher to deal with Cam Newton. I just think they have more. They can bring more plays to the table and more. They have just more options.
But here's the problem, Joe. They have no receiver core that can match up to the number one defense in the country. There's no way in the world that their outside receivers can get by. So you're basically limited in that. You're limited on your passing game. So what are you going to do? Run the ball with Cam the whole game against this Bronco defense? When you got safeties that will come up and hit you. You know, it's not like teams in the past. You're going against the number one defense.
I mean, Arizona had amazing secondary as is.
No.
What happened against them?
Without Honey Badger, Arizona's secondary was mediocre. And that's a guarantee. You're taking away a big time ball hog in the Honey Badger, and you're telling your team, you're telling somebody to go in there and be the same type of player. You're not going to get it. He makes that defense so much better than the guy that JJ had in there. That defense looked mediocre. And then you're talking about big stumps just pushing you back, where you have speed on the outside and some stumps in the middle that are able to put the pressure in the middle and then get you in the inside. I mean, it's going to be a tough test for these guys to actually get the offensive going. It is going to be the biggest defensive matchup game. And we might get two scores. We might get 2 scores on each side of the defense.
It's going to be a low-scoring game.
Well, I think that. So, do you think that the Broncos' offensive line is going to be able to keep Peyton safe, or do you think he's going to be under siege all game?
He's going to be under duress.
He's going to be under duress for sure.
Yeah. So, being that his mobility is limited, being that like he looks better than he has all season, but I think that he's still gimpy. He's still obviously. What's that?
Run the football. Run it. You have to. You have to run the football. There's no other way you can work your way around it. Like I said, you're going to have to be dedicated to the run game. Just to get those little pop passes that you want Peyton to have, you're going to have to be able to run the football. And if you can't run the football, then Carolina definitely can run the football.
What do you think? You think that they're going to spend more time in the gun or under center?
I mean, honestly, I'd put Peyton in the gun. And that's just because they get to the quarterback so quick, and his drop step is not as fast as it used to be.
Do you think that Kubiak's going to put him in the gun? He's going to anticipate this and he's going to put him in the gun?
He's going to have some packages in both sets.
So who do you like if you're picking a winner in this game? Who do you like, Joe? Who do you think is going to win this game?
Carolina.
Carolina convincingly, or like what kind of game are we looking at here?
Carolina by 6. It's going to be 20-14.
20-14.
How about you, Reuben? What do you think?
Oh, there's no way Carolina's going to win this game. I'm going to have to go with Denver Broncos defense. Defense wins championships, not offenses.
Joe, so obviously you think that the Panthers have a good shot of winning this game. You like them. What do you think they have to do to be able to win?
I just don't think they – as long as they don't bite themselves in the foot, as long as they don't turn the ball over, as long as they just keep doing what they're doing, they've been playing solid in both sides of the game. I think they just win it hands down. I think Peyton.
What about that second half meltdown against Seattle? Because let's be honest, if Seattle hadn't gifted them 2 interceptions in the first 2 minutes of possession, they would have lost that game.
Yeah, I mean, you could say that the other way around. Like, if they didn't just sit back on their, heels and just let Seattle come to them, then they would have probably went out. Like, they knew what their mistake was when they had the lead at halftime again. They didn't make it again. I just think they went back on their heels and they played too defensively against Seattle. Seattle would kill Denver, I think.
Oh, I disagree. I think Denver gets the better of that battle. But here's the thing. Think about this. They got 6 interceptions. Now you could say, hey, that's great defensive scheme, but you're talking about guys that just like some of the balls that were thrown were balls that just ordinarily aren't thrown. I understand that the pass rush is intense and that they're blitzing like you said 60% of the time, but some of these passes are just fluke situations. I mean, 6 interceptions in 2 games, and you barely won one of those games.
Here's the deal. Okay. Let's say Peyton is able to stand in the pocket and get the ball off. Who's going to cover Josh? Who's Josh Norman going to cover? He can only cover one person. So who's going to cover the other guy? Because they got 2 threats. I know Demaryius Thomas hasn't been up to par of late, but he's still a threat. And then you have two guys that could be #1 wide receivers on the outside for the Denver Broncos in any team.
Well, also
Peyton's
arm doesn't really scare me too much right now.
It may not, but at the same time, there's a threat. There is. What if he gets that third deep ball off where Demaryius Thomas is able to go up and get it? That's going to hurt you.
I mean, I would just be trying to get Demaryius Thomas in space, like quick passes, and let him do a lot of the work.
I would put Emmanuel Sanders in the slot somewhere.
Either or. I mean, get your guys the ball fast.
Yeah,
that's all I have to say.
Vernon Davis. I think Vernon Davis is really he's going to start getting his offense down, and you give him an extra 2 weeks to learn the offense. I mean, I think that he could be a part of this game because he could be a threat as a wide receiver or as a tight end wide receiver too, to linebackers, to anybody.
I mean, Vernon Davis is a beast. Don't get me wrong, like physically and just how he is, but how he's looked has just been awful. Like he can't catch the ball at all right now. He's been playing terrible.
What are the Broncos going to do about Kuechly?
You got to get ahead of him, Luke, man. You can't let them freely blitz. You can't. These guys get more open blitzes than anybody. It's amazing how many times some of these guys are coming free with nobody touching them.
Why is that, though? You have to ask you a question. Obviously, they've played 19 games this season.
You're not scheming some of these blitzes. The defensive blitzes are amazing that the Carolina Panthers are putting together. I mean, some of these guys, just to be able to get a guy with no hat on him and come free to the quarterback, that's trouble. But at the same time, if Peyton gets hurt, you got a reliable backup in Brock Osweiler.
Wow, you would consider Osweiler to be a reliable backup at this point?
To maintain a game, yes, I would.
This is the Super Bowl against a 16-1 regular season team, and you think that Osweiler is reliable?
Because you have to rely in your championship game. I don't care what quarterback you got. You can put Trent Dilfer back there. And you got a defense that can maintain your game. That's the #1 defense in NFL. I mean, come on. You have to figure that's going to help you out in some part of the way.
You have to be able to score points, and Osweiler cannot score points.
Do you have to be able to score points? Do you really?
Yeah, because that defense, I don't think that defense is going to get you points. They're going to slow down Cam Newton, but they're not going to get you points.
So you're telling me defense can't score?
I'm telling you that defense is going to have a difficult time scoring against that offense.
Scoring is very slim.
Wow,
I mean, they could score, but besides the defense scoring.
Okay, so we're going to discuss this next week, but I want to kind of ask some questions now. What do you think the keys are for your daily fantasy lineups? I know it's the Super Bowl, it's only 2 teams. Obviously, you also have 2 tough defenses. Like you said, the Denver Broncos had the best defense in the NFL, but even though the defense dominated the game against the Patriots, the Carolina Panthers defense was the play for DFS. This week, who are the people that you're keeping an eye on?
I think that you definitely have to keep an eye on Greg Olsen. He is going to be the key to Carolina's success against this defense. I mean, if he's a different type of tight end. He's not as big as Gronkowski, but he's more of a route runner against these linebackers and inside safeties that he can be more of a threat than Gronkowski could.
What about Owen Daniels, like in the screen pass type situation?
I don't see Owen Daniels really being a threat. They have covered linebackers that can really take away your tight end game versus.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna have Olsen in my tight end spot this week for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So defensively, who do you think is? Which defense are you gonna? You got to pick one. There's only 2. So which defense?
Carolina's.
You like Carolina?
I like the Broncos defense.
Like the Broncos defense. So What do you think?
I just have way more trust in Cam than I do in Peyton. Turnover.
God, it's so amazing. Do you think that if we were having this exact same conversation 2 years ago, what would you say?
Obviously not.
What do you think's the big change in Cam Newton?
I guess experience. I don't know. He's always been a good quarterback. Just whether he's been surrounded by a great team or if he hasn't shot himself in the foot. I mean, he's had all the qualities. He's always been, solid quarterback.
So what do you think about Cam Newton's celebration and all that stuff that the media is making a bunch of bringing a bunch of attention to the fact that the over celebration? Yeah. What do you think about that? Ruben, do you
Whatever,
think
let him celebrate. He's having fun. Why not?
It's changing the game, man. There's nothing wrong with him he's celebrating. And
yeah,
if you don't like it, stop it.
Yeah, some people, you
have to
it's different.
Full time. If somebody's gonna make fun, you gotta punch them in the mouth. You're not gonna just sit back and let them make fun of you.
If you don't like it, you
the legal way.
Celebrate like he does.
Yeah,
that's it. I mean, stop him from having a reason to celebrate if you don't like it. I like that. All right, boys. So Reuben, we've got you. You're on record as liking the Broncos. Joe on record as liking the Panthers. We're gonna have you guys on the show next week. I'm curious to see how it all shakes out. Thank you for being on the show, fellas.
Hey, Joe,
once again, for Jocks vs. Geniuses, I'm your host, Tim James. And until next week, may all your picks be lucky.